Well, for anybody who's here and the people who will be watching this on YouTube, welcome to the fourth webinar in our edition. My name is Aleksa from Aetherius Solutions, where we build mobile apps for many different clients, ranging from startup to enterprises. My guest today will be Ilya. He's an engineering manager at Qonto, one of the companies which has the biggest number of iOS and Android engineers, at least that I heard of. And he will be talking about how did they adopt AI across their teams. So Ilya, I'll be giving the word to you. Please shortly introduce yourselves, and then we can go over your presentation. If anybody from the attendees has some questions, please write them in the chat, and then we will go over them at the end of our webinar. Welcome, Ilya, and thank you for your time, for being here with us today.
Thank you, Alexa. I'm excited to be here. You introduced me briefly already. Yeah, I work at Qonto as engineer managers, and I lead mobile team there, Android and iOS engineers. And yes, we have a big team of 60 Android engineers and 60 iOS engineers.
Oh.
So big org of 120 engineers, but we are not the biggest in Europe, for sure. I can name at least 5-10 teams that have way more. The goal of today's webinar, maybe the format a little bit. You can already see the presentation, like in the first slide. I'll try to make it as interactive as possible because originally it's supposed to be, the long talk in the conference, so on. But here the format is a bit different, webinar. So feel free to post anything in the comments, in the chat. I will try to keep it up with this, maybe answer the questions on the fly. So let's get it started, I guess. So you already read the title. It's about scaling AI across 60 Android engineers. So, and since the word AI already was mentioned, I guess, a couple of times, right? These two letters, you can hear it everywhere. Whether you're engineer manager, software engineer, everyone, you open your Instagram, you open your LinkedIn, you see it everywhere. Just, can someone put plus in the chat if you feel the same? If it's like these two letters are everywhere, just to get some immersion and some engagement into the chat. Yeah. Okay. Alexa, I know you feel the same. Of course. From what I hear and what I personally feel like, we may have some sort of AI buzzword fatigue, right? It's literally everywhere. And I didn't update the slides, but let me quickly rephrase that. If we took a shot every time on this webinar, we hear the word AI, none of us would survive till the end, right? This is not something we don't want to hear. And for this webinar, I have a solution for you. I don't want to just be like the person who is speaking, but also who is telling you the story. For the story, what is the story? Inside of the story, usually characters. Let's introduce character into the story. Instead of me saying AI every time and then get you all bored because of this, let me replace the word AI with character. Sammy the Beaver. This is your recent hire, rookie engineer, who's just joined your team. So the idea is every time I say Sammy, that equals the word AI, just for the reference. You can ask me, why, Ilya, why are you making such a cringy, strange comparison? What beavers, what's common they have with AI as a technology? I'll tell you what they have in common. They both eager to help. They're both overconfident at times. They've been stubborn, but they actually love and strive at what your seniors hate. So for this talk, I can suggest you to imagine AI as GenAI, to be particular, as a tool, as a recent hire, just joining your organization and tell our story at Qonto, what we did with this. And then a few philosophical questions. What would be your approach of onboarding Sammy to your organization? Would you pair Sammy with your best engineers from day one? Or maybe would you throw Sammy into the features right away and into the ocean of features, and either Sammy would drown or learn how to swim throughout it? Or maybe would you do something different and put Sammy in isolated, safe space environment for months, and then you have a final exam at the very end? All of these questions I'll try to answer you today through our story at Qonto. But first, let me quickly tell you what the Qonto as a company is, the context. Aleksa shared it a little bit already, but Qonto is a company which has a banking app. We have banking app, right? And we have more than 6,000 customers. We worked on really big European markets, such as we were headquartered in France. Also, we operate in Italy, Germany, Serbia, by the way. And yeah, we have a really big mobile organization of 120 people. And that's quite a challenge, right? For a new recent hire who is just training, who just graduated university to join. So 120 engineers. We release Android app daily. For those who Android developers here somehow in the crowd. By the way, I forgot about this. Let's do the interactive part. Please, someone raise feel free to send your position where you're working as a title in the chat while I'm continuing. Please, it's important for the call, I guess. So we release Android app daily and iOS 2 times per week. This is just okay. iOS devs, nice. I will try to adjust my Android speech more to the iOS if possible. And originally I'm Android dev, but great to hear both sides here. So it's really high stakes. It's delivery pressure, deadlines. You can imagine all of this. Also, we kind of have, since we're a big company, we kind of have a culture or some values. One of the values is pragmatism over hype, which is so we just don't use the tools because of the trends, and these tools they have to prove their worth or die. So if there is no impact or benefit to the team, these tools goes to the trash can directly. Now, before I start, official part of the story, disclaimer, that would be honest story, not a sales pitch. Unfortunately or fortunately, I'm not incentivized anyhow to sell you some AI stuff today. So we are not AI vendor. I wish I could, but no. That would be a story about our ups and downs. I will specifically focus on the downs because everyone is talking about AI, how it's helping. I would rather focus more about also the shady part, what is not really working and where we're failing. So don't expect any go-to plan to your org, which you can present to your leadership tomorrow, and then you will start adopting that. Every org is different and every story is different. You can learn from our mistakes and our learnings. This is the best you can do. So let's go. Let's get started. So starting from phase one, how we build the playground for Sammy to join. We call it the chats era. Why chats? We will learn in a second. In first days, this is early experiments. Sammy joined as a trainee. Some in terms of skills, maybe just copy pasting from ChatGPT, not really trusting the tool. Just you can imagine it as early days. It was late 2023, maybe beginning 2024, where this is when Sammy joined the team. So not enough skill set. Like everyone is still a bit biased, and the buy-in is still not there. It's fancy, it's helping, but not. I mean, we were not convinced. And then the big leap happened for us. Since we are a bank, we kind of really worried about passing some corporate data and user data to ChatGPT. That was not the case for us. And we were looking for some compliant wrapper or some compliant solution that could help us to do that. You can imagine that as a vendor that acts like a company in the middle, proxying request and also storing our data in a secure way. So one of the companies that we chose back then, that was Dust. As I said, it's a compliant LLM wrapper. You can imagine that in 2023, beginning 2024, it was just a way for us how to use the latest models on day one. So you could pick there from OpenAI, Sonnet, Claude, Anthropic models, or DeepSeek, basically by iterating this platform and not providing API keys for this every tool to every developer. So that was just the way how to solve compliance issue for us in the beginning. But as we grew, as our adoption of AI grew, Dust as a product grew as well. And we started to integrate more and more things. By integrating more and more things, I mean, it's not so interesting to just play with ChatGPT if this ChatGPT doesn't know anything about your data, your organization, or any of your corporate data. So eventually we started to integrate it first with Slack. So you could imagine you could start prompting about your messages in Slack in some sort of chat window. This is why we call this era chat. This is where the first time I mentioned the word chat. And also integrated that with Notion. If you guys are using Confluence maybe at work or any Atlassian tools or some sort of knowledge-based thing, for us, it's Notion. So, and you can imagine as Android or iOS dev, you open your laptop, and you could already start prompting some very basic stuff about who is, I don't know, about the organization, who is leading this department, or who is co-owner of that part of the app, or for onboarding, that was a key. Like I joined in 2024 Qonto, and throughout whole my onboarding, I was using this, like basically asking questions how Qonto works or how business works, or just to any possible question I was raising there. And we didn't stop there. We started to introduce bots as well, but inside of this platform. But on this a bit in a second. So this is how you can picture that. On the left, you see any possible integration you can have. Dust acting as a middle. It can be Dust and it can be any other platform. Later we can chat about it. I know other platforms. The vendor here is not important. The concept is important, that you can start working with GenAI with help of Sammy and already integrating the different things inside of your organization and starting to create the bots. Bots are done on the right part. So basically every person in our org can create some special version of GPT with pre-prompt. This is the idea. I think in OpenAI, it's called GPTs, if I'm not mistaken, if you're familiar. So you can picture it as a like agents, but back then it was no word agent. So you can see something here for the code review, something about incidents, but also for any other purposes as well. But since here I'm talking more about mobile, and also I see Android and iOS devs here in the chat. For us, the really big moment happened when we found a way how to connect our Android and iOS repositories to GitHub. So basically, imagine it's 2024, beginning of 2024, maybe mid 2024, and back then, Cursor, IDE, and Claude, and any other tool in the market wasn't that popular. But since this vendor provided us a solution to basically integrate it with GitHub, our developers could start already prompting and asking questions about AI, well, not with help of AI, starting questions about code and explaining architectural patterns, help in writing maybe unit tests and so on. You can imagine, like if you're using Cursor right now, this is what we got already in 2024. That was quite a key. Yeah, like full repo context, and we moved from generic answers from ChatGPT to really Qonto-specific kind of code insights. And that was an really essential step for us, because I see right now many companies in the market start directly from let's do features or let's do everything with Cursor. But these integrations on the left, yeah, they helped us to pass this friction a little bit, because this is the biggest shift in industry we see in years. And if you just give developers or anyone the tools and tell them completely change the way how they build software, no, it would not work. It should be gradual, like incremental kind of steps that helps. We had really great adoption of this tool. 52% of our developers tried it, for mostly for explaining some patterns and onboarding standards and processes. But again, you don't see any write operations here. Most of them is read operations, like explaining and onboarding, not so much of the actual writing the code, right? So remember that. We will come back to that later. Yeah, still we're using this tool for the same by this day. So basically 1.5 years past, we're still using that. 30 daily users, on average Android, 50% of the team is using that. And this is how it looks. Typical like agentic kind of look like window where you can pick from different bots here. And these bots, they can be created inside of your company. That unlocked us, really unlocked us. I mentioned the word friction already. We started to notice back then that these tools, you just can't adopt them easily, because there is some certain friction from devs, from like just regular employees as well, because we changed the way how we want to build things. And when it comes to friction, I think the trust is important. We started to work on building the trust for these tools directly. Like we understood that you couldn't just jump into the code generation. This is why we started with this vendor, just to gradually onboard people on Sammy's capabilities is every day. So we learned that this trust, it has to be learned and not declared. For us, it was not like top-down decision from CTO that now you use it or you get fired. No, it was not like this. It wasn't just about giving licenses. Our management really worked on cultural shift. And I don't want to sound corporate too much, but I see really companies in the market just giving licenses to devs and then expecting some return of this investment. No, it would not work. You should really work it as on every layer of your org. Even if the organization is small, still it requires some shift. About all of this that I shared so far about our experience in 2024, you can read from this beautiful Medium article from our CTO. So I will share the links after the presentation, but there is a lot about this cultural shift in 2024 that happened. So I shared with you the chats era. Again, all of the operations that Sammy did there was read operations. So not someone, maybe someone was copy pasting code, of course, to Android Studio or Xcode. Yeah, we didn't block people from doing that, but we also saw the friction of people having one browser window and then going from browser window to IDE and back and forth. So nobody loves to do that. Like it kills immersion, it kills your one-piece flow, it kills everything. This is why in the phase 2 of our rolling out AI phase, we started to solve and address this exact issue by introducing agents. Maybe first for those, maybe some folks here are not super familiar with AI stuff and difference between chats and agents. Just quickly show you the difference. For chats, you saw these capabilities already. I shared it in the previous slides. Answer questions, explain the code, draft docs. But agents, they will go beyond that. So they actually read your repo, actually refactor code, actually run commands and automate workflow. And since this presentation was created maybe a couple months, 3 months ago, and back then I felt like this slide is needed. 3 months passed, and I feel like everyone here in the chat is understand what I'm speaking about. What it means that we are moving really fast. We're moving really fast, and even the slides, they don't really survive 3 months of existence. But yeah, in the agents era, it started that we let Sammy actually write code. Now how? Well, first maybe before I say I'll tell how, maybe one more corporate slide with one word experiment. You can't really do that without experiments. In your org should be something allowed to fail, right? Experiment and then fail fast. Without it would be always like a punishment, in my opinion. So we tried to work on experiments a lot. Like you use this tool, then you use another tool, and then you learn from it. And now I will show you 2 stories. One story failed, another one succeeded. I will not tell you now which one is this. You will try to guess. But through these 2 experiments, I will just give you the sneak peek of capabilities of agents, at least as a state of September 2025. The first idea that we had in the first experiment that we had was quite simple. It was in, I think, May 2025. You have Figma screenshot, you have Cursor, and then the idea was to generate Jetpack Compose code and also Swift UI based on this with the help of MCP. MCP, I guess, was introduced back then. And for those who don't know, but I'm pretty sure that folks here in the chat, they know it. Again, this is how fast we're moving. This is just a protocol that connects GenAI with some other API. So idea was to generate code based on Figma screenshots. We had hackathon, and we had a really good idea that, oh, I spelled something. We had a really good idea of just generating a screenshot based on our design system. Like everything should work, right? The agents, they know stuff. It's quite deterministic and everything should work. Do you think it works? It worked? Put plus in the chat if you think it worked, even though I spoiled it already. Yeah, no, yes, okay. Alexa is the only optimistic person here.
Always.
Always, yeah, I like your mindset. Okay. Yeah, it didn't work because I shared it already and spoiled it for you guys. But yeah, it turned out our design system just was super big and complex and too good maybe for LLM to handle. It led to hallucination eventually. MCP service was not stable back then, and it led to low adoption, mainly because of Cursor. Because as an Android guy myself, I know that having something else except of JetBrains product on your MacBook is not good because JetBrains product are the best, likely. And when you constantly break this flow, one piece flow, it's not really great. But this is what we learned actually, that great demos and great POC that we have at Hackathon, it doesn't mean that it will be adopted in your organization. So yeah, we got the way how to build compose screen with one prompt, and it was way faster than doing it ourselves. Yes, but actually we decided not to iterate any further back then in May. and decided to wait until LLMs catch up with complexity. But remember this experiment, I will come back to this later, because again, we are moving really fast, and maybe spoiler alert, we're iterating on this, how to make it even better. Now one story, how Sammy, so just a reminder, because this is, I guess, the first time you see Sammy picture in years, not in years, in minutes, and 10 minutes or so. Sammy started as trainee, as a junior, and now Sammy started as trainee and got promoted to junior engineer. Still here on the picture, you see that Sammy is not satisfied with this at all. But let's see what kind of story helped Sammy to get it. First, the problem, I guess for Android and iOS folks here in the chat, you will get it right away. Every big app has a problem of some sort of God model, some sort of really big model that contains many parts. For us, it was a model that was containing test fixtures. So for those who don't know, fixtures in our case is basically mocks of our UI test setup. So and it was like 300 files, no clean code ownership in our big organization. It was not clear who is owning that. Imagine you change something that really big model, monolith model, and then you have to rebuild it after any change. So it's not good. But also it's quite simple problem, right? You can say just move the files around, move the file in a proper place to the responsible team. But yeah, do you guys like this kind of tasks when your manager asks you, or you have this task in the tech backlog? Likely you don't really love this task because they're meticulous. They're just, you have to meticulously do it, and it's not so creative, and it's not using your brain power that much, right? And also it requires a lot of your focus, right? So our target was to move the files around. That would lead to faster build time, clear ownership, and basically to have each test responsible, test fixture, test mock responsible to the feature team inside of it. So what we use for this, Qonto, and some spoilers in September 2025, but it's already November. Qonto is our official tool for Android team. This is what we've been using so far. We just got rid of every other thing, and we're not really pushing for it because Qonto is really key for us. Maybe Codex is still keeping up with this, but since this slide is a bit 1 month old at least, Qonto is still our way better performer as a CLI tool. Yeah, again, it lives in a terminal. You have the access right away with an Android Studio, also in Xcode with some tweaks as far as I know. It has different modes, plan, execute, and so on. It's quite costly. I would say that's the downside of these approaches. And they also have the same tiers as Cursor, but in our experience, it's way more costly. And we got a success. Sorry that I didn't ask you some open question, but we got a big success from it. Initially, we estimated this problem to be solved in 3 weeks by human work, and we solved it in 5 days with help of Qonto. It led also to our test build times down 2 times. So actually, it was boring, low creative satisfaction to humans kind of work. But it was perfect job for Sammy because nobody wanted to do it. It was low-hanging fruit that needed to be done because of also, imagine if you rebuild the app every time, how much it costs for your organization. So, but it was even better for us. Like, we didn't stop there. So what does this image remind you? What kind of superhero is that? Likely Batman symbol, right? What we did also, plot night shifts. When Batman is working on the streets, dealing with crimes, our plot code was dealing with our crime of our code base in the night, on night basis. So basically, the idea was you refine the prompt until it works. Instead of working on it in your daytime, you start to plot end of the day, you go to sleep, and you review the code next morning. That was one of the approaches we tried. But I want to warn you, only do this when you know your prompt works, because otherwise you run out of money, and that wouldn't be the best approach. So it wouldn't work for every possible task, only this kind of one. All right. Now you can see Sammy helping our senior engineers here in the picture. And we started also see the pattern that we can adopt this AI thing for other engineers. And those who are really lazy and those who like to avoid repetitive work, they thrive the best. That we can support this pattern. So if you're smart enough to find a solution, but you're lazy, everyone benefits. And I honestly believe that laziness is kind of driving human evolution sometimes, and software engineering evolution, that's 100%. So as I mentioned multiple times already, Sammy helped avoiding repetitive, boring, and brain-numbing tasks. This is the key message for this webinar, one of the key ones. Don't try to solve the features right away. Start from something like from long-hanging fruit, right? Start from something that your senior engineers hate and actually get some impact from it right away. Okay, these experiments, they're good. Sometimes you don't have the time to experiment. That's all right. You just want to build features. You just, exploring all of this, that can be overwhelming. I understand. For these folks, we created some sort of AI get started guide, because you just cannot keep up with the amount of information that you have in the market, and also tools that you've been experimenting in our org, that there's too much. Have so many Slack messages, so much Slack threads. You just feel overwhelmed. And for those people, we created, like, for every stack, some sort of starter kit from Android to backend, basically. So no matter what you build, you can jump with fast. There you will find known and tested toolbox. You can imagine like Cloud Code or other tools. Now, in case of mobile, Cloud Code, Gemini, and Dust assistants. And also you can find their concrete use cases, how to solve issues, like what Sammy is helping the best, and what to avoid. And also who are responsible people to reach out in case you kind of stuck. All of this is kind of more for big organization and big organizations, because it's kind of problem of really not the startup world, but more like big known scale-ups or even like big techs. But still, I guess some sort of page where you can enable everyone without answering the same questions all over again is the key, in my opinion, for every org. And a bit about mobile toolbox. I mentioned that already. We use Cloud Code, we use Gemini mostly for inside of Android Studio. We have this suite, Google Suite enabled. We use it inside of just code completion, not like agentic use or anything. And still we use this LLM wrappers plus bots for feature brainstorming, architecture brainstorming. We don't go to Cloud because it would be too expensive. So people started to solve problems with AI. Oh, good. Adoption happens. Sammy is working, helping, but then we spot a problem. Okay, people started to solve problems in different ways all over again. And these problems, they were writing prompts, clearly, because to be able to work with agents, you're writing prompts in them. And we spotted that they're reinventing the prompts all over again, basically. If one engineer in one team got the task of working on something and then did it with the help of Sammy, and then another engineer, another company, another domain did the same, they never interacted, right? They don't even know each other. And that was a problem, because it's a waste of resources. How we solved this, we created AI prompts catalog. You can picture it as initially it was just a database where we stored collection of reusable prompts for feature tasks, for routine feature tasks. So idea was to have these reusable prompts for each stack. And also we got this logic, we had this logic in mind, if this routine task is repeated across multiple features, if yes, then we can extract the prompt, we work on it, we refine it, and then people can use it. You can picture typical prompts in our Qonto app as in every feature, create a remove feature flag. So why should you do it yourself every time to change the logic? Just delegate it to AI, to Sammy, and that's it. So maybe extracting model from monolith, because it was quite big and nobody wanted to do this. Also ideal case. Or maybe creating design system component. For us, it was a kind of popular task as well, because we have a really big design system. But you can imagine that, right, and apply it to your need in your company, like the most popular tasks. This is what we extracted. But initially it was just a copy pasting, again, not ideal. And then we found out Cloud Code commands. That was another feature of Cloud Code that was quite handy. And now we store it inside of Git, basically, inside of .cloud folder. And we this slide is already also outdated. We have, I guess, 2 times more now. But you can see here something about Figma, right? Well, that means that now we're experimenting if this idea of generating composable Swift UI with help of Cloud Code actually would work, because initially we stopped. Now we're iterating again, maybe it would work. So, but you got the idea. You as an engineer just run these commands inside of the Cloud Code, and everything is working. Now, I think we are close to wrap up this section. Like maybe I'm just checking the time. Maybe it's more about big org kind of thing. But this is really important. This first one, who is actually encouraging people in your organization to do all of this AI activity? Like, since we work with people and everything is for people, right? And we're all engineers. Who is driving the adoption is quite important. Pick the right people for the right tasks. Onboard them properly. And also, this is the message for, I didn't see anyone who's been engineer manager, or maybe Aleksa, it's message for you. I don't know. Set goals on progress use, and that would help. Now it's always fancy, right? Everything is working, like few failures, okay. But what if Sammy's manager is asking for KPIs? Where is this measurement? Like, does it really work? Like, where is it? Spoilers, nobody, including us, cracked it yet. Measurement of AI work is still the hardest part. If you wanted to get a concrete plan on measurement today of this webinar, please leave, because please leave right now, because I don't have it for you. It's still the hardest part for us and for everyone in the industry. But now you can see the most creative slide of this presentation. That this is the best possible creativity I could get. You can start already thinking about what this 30% can be. Is it the tax rate in your country, or maybe is it something else? Is it something regarding AI? Likely something regarding AI. And now I'll tell you what is this. Wrong guesses only. Yeah, so I'm not sure we had time for this, but yeah. Let's quickly check the typical time spending on coding in your sprint or whatever format you're using. Likely engineer spends around 40% of time on engineering kind of tasks, but by really optimistic scenario. And these 40% tasks, only 60% tasks are supported by assistant. Okay, all these numbers, they're made up just for the reference, we understand. And this 60%, only 55% tasks actually works. I mean, it actually completes, right? What we can learn from it, first, that we are not just writing code, we're also trying to understand what we should do, and it takes more time than actually writing the code. This is quite important. This is why we are not getting replaced by AI yet, because writing the code is not the main problem of our software engineering job. The problem is to understand what should be done. And if you do the math and divide and multiply these numbers, you will get this 30%. Basically, this is what we see as a performance. Debugging is a key. Yeah, maybe. We see it across industry, and also we see it in our metrics that if someone tells you that AI helps 8 times, you build feature 8 times faster or 10 times faster, either this person is selling you some AI stuff, or either this person is selling you some AI courses, or just they just don't know how software engineering works. So this is the number we see so far for different metrics, and also subjective and objective ones. This slide is just to set expectations. And just quickly, also some interesting facts. A few months ago, MIT, this is like from the States, this is institution, they found out that 95% of generative AI pilots fail. That sounds really crazy, that $25 billion invested and only 5% of the tasks working sounds really, really strange and really scary. If I was a CEO, let's say, if I saw this number, that would be crazy. But to me, it's not that crazy. This huge amount of money, they are not just lost. This is our tuition fee, in my opinion. And this is our cost of discovering what doesn't work with AI. We were quite optimistic, super optimistic in the beginning, and we tried to solve any issue with AI, which can be complicated. And also, as engineers, or also as human beings, we have this problem. If you have a hammer, you are trying to find the nail to hit right everywhere. You're just trying to apply this hammer everywhere, even if hammer doesn't work for this kind of work. I don't know. And this is the problem that we had with AI as well in industry. And so it means that it's just early failures and expensive, really expensive grad work and not crisis. And it signals the end of really naive phase and start of systemic value-driven adoption. Sounds really corporate, I know that. But now, what do we measure at Qonto? First, we measure the same business and delivery metrics. So we measure amount of incidents that we have, bugs, how much it takes for us to deliver value to the customer. All of this we will measure it even before. But what we didn't do, and I wish we did it, we didn't do a proper A/B experiment. One team is using AI, another team is not using AI. We didn't do that. We were so excited about these tools that we started right away. If someone right now here in the chat, but I don't think it's the case because everyone is using it already. But if someone has this problem, start with proper A/B tests. You will get the best metrics. What we measure now? We measure adoption, obviously, how much of the tools is being used and how much of the code is being produced throughout domains per stack and per domains and per every team. Also, like we go to the deepest level of team view. Let's say we don't go on an individual level. Like let's say we don't measure how much particular engineer is writing code with help of AI or not. It just, in our opinion, it's just a proxy metrics. They can be easily gamified, and the lines of code is not actually the key metric of this. But we measure adoption because it's quite important to see trends and what tools are being used. So about tools, we measure activity trends. So I mentioned that Claude is our main tool for Android, but also we kind of, in our org, we were blessed to have freedom to try out different things, like together in parallel. So it means that even though we are advertising for Claude Code, you as an Android engineer and iOS engineer, you can use Cursor, or you can use even Copilot, because we used to have GitHub license. Now we're thinking about get rid of it, but still you can experiment. And for us in management, this kind of charts helps us to understand the trends. Maybe Cursor rolled out something really big and new, and you see the spike and you need to invest more money inside of it. And of course, speaking about money, we measure money. Like our charts are getting higher, of course, with the usage of Claude Code with every month, but it's more about, I guess, seeing the trends. And since I know that there are iOS engineers here in the chat, you can see that iOS has the biggest adoption and a biggest average cost per engineer in our organization. You can say it's good, you can say it's bad, it's up to you. But for you iOS folks, I think it's a win, speaking as Android engineer. Also, what we measure, something really, it was objective. Now what we measure subjectively. We have this table inside a Notion, what our devs say. So, like, for example, you can add, as an engineer, you can add example where AI helped you, like, and how much it saved. Like, here are a couple references from folks inside the team saying that in one case it saved 1 day, another case 4 days on some specific migration, or maybe Nicola, staff engineer, saying that it just wouldn't be possible to write it by hand, mentioning how much cost it is. If you combine all of this together, it gives you some perception of what actually is helping. We don't have one key metric to check what actually works. Now we are assessing DORA. For those folks who knows, there is DORA metrics on market, if you heard about it. So we can reference. No, Alexa, did you hear about? No. Okay.
Sounds a little bit familiar, but if you can shortly explain.
Yeah, I mean, even before the AI world, like it's been a question, right? Always how to measure engineering performance. And one of the way is how to do that is DORA metrics. I can write it in chat. You can Google it afterwards. And the company who is behind it a little bit, DX, that's also the name of the company, they are now assessing the new way how to measure it. That if you just go on the internet and check it, I think they provide the most comprehensive way how to measure AI measurement and involvement. It's just maybe you can dig it later. But this is something we didn't do, but it's on our agenda because again, measurement is still the hardest part. Now, I guess the time is, I need to wrap up all of this that I said a little bit already. Sammy, how does he look today? He lives in ID. He knows boundaries. That's quite important. Sammy is super helpful with repetitive tasks. Sammy is not helpful at all for us for features yet. Sammy helps not only developers, but also PMs and designers, because here I shared only angle from development side, software engineer side, but our PMs love Sammy as well. And our designers even started to recently raise merge requests in our repository to fix paddings with Qonto. That's something really crazy. Like, to me as a software engineer, it's crazy the shift that we're experiencing right now, but it's happening. Timeline, a bit about future. We want to move Sammy to CI pipelines. Now it lives on a local machine. I imagine every time you have to rebuild the app, and it just takes time. Why for the tasks like feature flags, you have to do the local build? I don't know. I would rather move it to CI pipelines. We're currently at the step of like fighting with security a little bit, security team to make it happen. Maybe after this, Sammy will automate part of the process completely. So far, it's not happening. When it happens, likely Sammy would be capable of building feature 0 to 1. Again, I want to be here pragmatic and realistic and say it's not happening right now. Sammy is not building the features from scratch for us at the moment. It helps with repetitive tasks, tech depth, and something that still helping a lot, but it's not on the feature level. And when Sammy will be capable of building feature from 0 to 1, this is the moment where we promote Sammy to L2 engineer, so the middle level engineer. So far, it's some way to go. I wouldn't say how much left because I cannot really see the future, but definitely not this year. Some takeaways: if you somehow manage to not get anything from what I said during this 40 minutes, maybe you were sleeping, maybe it's evening and the place you are, please wake up. Time for some takeaways. Just to wrap up the whole presentation: pick the right people, the right job. We call it champion. You can call it whatever way you want, but someone has to drive the adoption. Someone has to drive AI initiatives. Pick people properly, put the right energy, right mindset. Feel free to fail, and so on. Start from building safe sandbox. For us, it was this vendor dust where we experimented in this read-only mode. To me, it's still an essential step. If I were starting AI adoption in a new organization right now, I would still start from this, not from Cloud Code, not from Cursor. That's fine. We can do it in parallel, but the goal is to enable everyone in your team, PMs, developers, everyone to use generative AI, GenAI tools, and also it would address the compliance problem and security problems. There are many vendors in the market. You can search for them. Dust is one of the tools. It's not advertisement, by the way, but they are really good. Start with boring work. Again, don't start with features. Try to be really realistic. Don't set false expectations. Keep the menu short because it's so many tools on the market. You can be easily overwhelmed. Limit the options for your devs. And last but not least, embrace wins and learn from failures. You have to be there to experiment and fail, and it's totally normal. But the key is to learn from it. So with that, that's it from me. Here you can find the QR code, this vibe-coded website with the presentation and everything. Yeah, I used Lovable for this, if you know the service. And that's it. Aleksa, I guess passing the mic to you because I think we have time for questions. And yeah.
Yeah. First of all, thank you, Leo. It was a wonderful presentation. I loved how you took an approach from like simple and smaller tasks like this chat AI with Dust and feeding it with context. I love that. And then like moving gradually towards more agentic approach and something which can actually bring value. And I understand that you're a bigger organization and you had to do it carefully, but I feel it's a good way to go. And yeah, designers and PMs are finally able to fix paddings, which is crazy. But yeah, we have to live with that. So I actually wrote a couple of questions which I wanted to ask you. A lot of them you already answered in the next slide of the presentation. But please, if anyone has some questions in the chat, also please write, and we will be answering them. So I have actually two things which I want to discuss with you. You mentioned that like you go and type a prompt into Claude, and then you go to sleep, and then you get back, and yeah, and then you basically code review. Did you maybe try, because that's something I saw teams use, using AI for code reviews, like integrating it in code review process. So basically a simple CI/CD or a pipeline. Whenever pull request is raised, AI agent goes through the PR and leaves those like basic comments. Yeah, maybe even some deeper comments because it understands the code, etc. So is that something maybe which you tried?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Alexa. Yeah, that's a nice question. Indeed, we tried. And actually, I just forgot to mention that on the slides because it's one of the things that we have. Uh, with Claude, we didn't Claude Code no because it didn't pass our security. So far, it's the same problem as the CI pipelines. Since we were using GitHub Copilot, this is what we use for reviews. And also we tried to use Code Rabbit. As far as I know, it didn't stick. But yeah, the Copilot we use, but we're not really pushing that much on the review, I would say. And that's one of the things that requires a bit more effort from our side. But yeah, but so far we have only Copilot. But again, the idea is when you wrote the code with AI and AI is reviewing your code, and it's just agent to agent kind of conversation. This is how I see potentially maybe the future. But for us, we are enabling engineers to think that you are really responsible for the job that you created, even though it was with help of AI. But still, you kind of really responsible for this. But code reviews, in short, we tried GitHub Copilot, and that's it.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, I'm asking because in some like the near or distant future, I also see a potential scenario where AI is generating most of the code, and AI is reviewing it, and people are like orchestrating and like being on top all of that. Thank you for your answer. And yeah,
Also, I recently was watching some podcast from the same people that I mentioned, DX chat, and the host said there that code this day is liability. So basically, everyone thinks like, okay, I produce some code, now it's good, right? This code, but actually, sometimes it's bad because the best code is the code that doesn't exist, right? It's some problem was solved because in the end we're solving problems, not just writing code. And the same approach, I guess, applies also to AI or Sammy or any other tool that would be on the market.
Yeah. That's a really interesting perspective, and thank you for sharing that. And yeah, we have one question in the chat. I have one question, and then one question more, and then we'll cover this question in the chat. Thank you, Philip, for jumping in.
We answer now or no?
Yeah, we can go now. I have one more question, and then I wanted to move to the questions from chat. But yeah, however, we can go to Philip's question as well. So from a developer's perspective, which do you think is better, cloud code or Cursor? You did some benchmarking, right?
Yeah, benchmarks. I mean, again, it's changing every month. In our case, we stuck with Cloud Code, so I assume you can say it's better. Mainly why? Because of the CLI thing that it lives inside of terminal and it lives inside of your Android Studio, and also it was quite better than Cursor, especially in August, September, July. It depends on the model, of course. In case of Cloud Code, it's you kind of limited with the model. In Cursor, you can experiment with different ones. But since we are mobile engineers, we kind of stuck with something that lives in terminal. I know that Cursor now has a CLI as well, and they also updated to the Cursor 2.0. Now they have agents and so on. We didn't run the tests on this yet, but again, it's a matter of trying. Right? As for now, it's Cloud Code. But all these prompts and commands and everything that we created, they're kind of interchangeable because there is another player on the market, OpenAI Codex, that it's quite good as well. But they have, as far as I know, I'm not sure if they have it, but I don't remember exactly. But I think they have these commands somehow. I think as well, like you can run specific command, and what it means that you can reuse it, and for Cursor as well in this agentic new mode. Yeah. In short, answer is in our case, Cloud is better. But if you ask me next month, I wouldn't be sure the answer is the same.
Yeah. Maybe the answer will be different. And what I think is good to shortly jump in. What I think is good from your perspective is that you're tracking these kind of things, like trying different AI agents and AI tools, and just tracking on a really small periods of time, like each month, which tool behaves better, where we should invest more, which licenses to buy. I think that's an actually great thing. Not a lot of organizations are using. I'm seeing like as you mentioned, like just buy licenses. So here are the licenses for this tool. We should use it. We're expecting this productivity boost. While you are like experimenting and just based on the data going with something which works for your team. And I think that's really nice. Okay, now we have one more question for Philip. He's asking, are we training smarter systems or just creating dumber developers who can't ship without AI? The eternal dilemma.
I think we're training smarter system and creating dumber developers. This is what we're doing. No, I mean, and joking aside, this is the problem, really the problem. I mean, especially for juniors. For senior engineers, it helps you. As a senior, you saw already many things. You saw some. I'm not sure I can say what you saw, but you saw some experience.
You were probably scrolling through Stack Overflow on 20th page to find
it. I wanted to say some specific word, but it's a recorded webinar. But you saw some stuff. You saw some stuff, right? And it enables you. AI enables you to work even better. But if you're junior, yeah, I wouldn't say it's really hard. It's really hard. It's like it's double-edged sword. Like you can enable you to work faster, better, and stronger. But on the other hand, it makes you dumber sometimes. Yeah, I don't have an answer for that. It's a philosophical question, and it's not even about engineering, and it's about our evolution. Just this is happening right now. I don't have an answer. At least I don't have this will and desire to give official answer on this.
Yeah, absolutely understood. And Satyarana is saying, I feel AI makes devs jack of all trades, but people who really understand their underlying tech really well and know how to debug code, which they haven't wrote, will be on top of AI. Yeah, definitely. Like this is something we already discussed, Ilya, and like still, from my perspective, I see a difference between someone who's super senior, super experienced, and someone who is just like shipping with AI, and the gap between juniors and seniors is getting bigger. So out of curiosity, I know that like big organizations like yours, you probably have most of the senior iOS and Android engineers. Do you even have junior people in your team, or and if you do, like how do you handle this gap which is between them?
We have many juniors.
Oh, nice.
For them, what happened basically, instead of going to Stack Overflow, like I mentioned, they just use ChatGPT for. No, in our case, it's this Dust tool, but it doesn't matter. They use models for everything. We are encouraging this. We are not trying to stop it because, like, yeah, it kills the way how we used to learn. Yeah, we didn't learn back then, but in my opinion, the senior engineers who are open-minded they're the ones who will actually will thrive, because like there are many close-minded senior engineers that not only use it in themselves but also trying to block junior engineers from using that because they have really strong opinions regarding that. I think the key here is being like really pragmatic and flexible, and for juniors in one way it started to be really relatively easy to produce code. And we see some situations when you open your merge request and something smells. You feel like AI was used definitely, but you can't really tell where exactly, and then you start to dig, and then you understand why. But so it requires some sort of workshops and pair programming together to point where specifically you can focus on AI a bit more and where it's better to focus too much on this. But it's more about how you think, I guess, than how you use it, because in a way we are prompting in natural language, right? We're taking human language, and it just shows the way how we think. Yeah, it's still the same patterns how you think applies even to the AI. If you just someone mentioned debugging there, I guess in the chat. Some people, when they stuck, they are iterating over the same idea for 5 hours and not trying to different things. And some people, they just, okay, 1 hour time box, it didn't work. Now let me try completely something from scratch. The same applies with AI, and I guess the same learning patterns applies with AI. Yeah.
Satriana is saying AI with pair programming senior plus junior could be a good combo going ahead to fill the gap. Yeah, definitely. I believe from my perspective, communication between seniors and juniors and like senior engineers, as you mentioned, Ilya, pointing the things on which juniors should rely on the AI and pointing the things on which they should do on their own, I think can make a difference in the long run. And yeah, maybe one more thing before we close this up, since yeah, we're already out of time. So Ilya, you mentioned that AI helped you with modularization. So you had the monolith, and then you asked them with this I don't know, commands like and these reusable prompts to move things around. So I'm curious, how much of manual effort was there pending between the moment you ask, hey, extract me this to a separate module? Because from my perspective and from the code bases on which I worked on, like many times it requires a lot of context, because some things which you need are probably in some other module, and then you need to link that module to that new module as well, and it requires some moving around. So I'm curious, how did that go? And second thing is like some organizations which I talked to use there is not a specific name for that, but they use some like spec-driven AI development. So you mentioned that you're not using it for features, but what they do, they make a specification for features, then they train their AI to work based on these specifications, and then each feature they start like that. Hey, these are the specifications. Can you generate me this? So what is your opinion on that? So these are the two topics which I think we can shortly discuss.
First about monolith. So I think we were doing that when we were doing that, it got us weekly to 17%, let's say, and the rest 30% was manual work. Some of the senior engineers didn't like that. Some of the senior engineers love that. It depends, like this 80-20 rule. And yeah, it wasn't like you just run the command and it's working and everything is fine. Of course, you have to be careful, and in our scale, as you can imagine, so big code base, and it just wouldn't work. For smaller code base, maybe it could have gotten like to 90%, right? But for us, it was 70. But still, we're speaking about like wasting or saving time, right? It still saved us a lot of time. This is the key. Like even when we count it with the money spent and everything, it's still faster than doing it yourself. Yeah, you just have to get used to it. That the first version, you're kind of iterating over it, and then you're iterating over prompt, and then after all, our prompt to extract monolith is like this, like just super big, and with concrete rules, and like you can imagine, like we send this prompt many times to some prompt improvement tools from Claude or whatever. Yeah, iterative process. Yeah, definitely was not like 0 to 1 with help of AI. Yeah, I'm not working for some AI company to say you that you still some 30% work is required. But ask me in 1 year, right? And the second question was about specs. I love the idea. Yeah, it could work, right? But in my opinion, writing the code is not at least in my experience as an engineer, it wasn't the most complicated task that I had in years. Actually, trying to understand requirements and the requirements that they constantly being updated, that was the most complicated tasks that I had, because there was involvement of people, and usually working with people are a bit harder than working with some computer tools, right? And even with this spec-driven development, still the specs are getting updated. Yeah, I don't know. We didn't try it. I saw some approaches on the market. Yeah, maybe it would be the next step, because I was recently watching podcast with creator of Kotlin, Andrei Preslov, if someone knows him, and he's currently not. Sorry for like shifting a bit topic, but he's working on his startup. Like since he was in the beginning of Kotlin, and he kind of in programming languages, compilers, and so on. His vision of the next iteration of like software engineering is that you have specification, and this is the big. You can imagine it like a mirror board where you can connect pieces, right? And you connect one specification to another specification. Like the good example is like, I'm not into game development, but as far as I know, everything can be done manually, or you can open some Unreal Engine and draw some things. You connect the pieces, it still gets you, I guess, to some sort of percentage, maybe not 70, and then you go in the deep, and then you write the code itself. So I see the future as connecting pieces between, especially for frontend. I see the pieces like connecting some sort of constructor, and you're constructing the layouts, and then connecting the domain layer and all these mechanisms that low code apps used to have for years. Now it's even more. This is awesome.
Yeah, great perspective, and send us that link from the Kotlin founder. I'm really curious, and I think people are curious to see.
That's one thing that AI doesn't handle that much, is to translating from one language to another on the fly. So likely the language that I watched wouldn't be the most used there for the folks in the chat. Yeah.
Okay. No worries. So yeah, let's wrap this up. Thank you very much again, Ilya. Thank you everybody who joined this webinar. I think it was super useful. It was super useful for me, and I'm already all into the AI, but having these insights on a company of a scale of Qonto was really useful for me. Ilya, thank you very much for spending the afternoon with us. Much appreciated. Thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and thank you all for the good questions.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.